It's no secret. The black community is and has been at a gross disadvantage throughout history. What if I told you that it all ties back to how we understand the Bible? And that if we begin to understand the Bible in a totally different way, we'll be able to change the dynamics of what it means to be black in America. If you're interested in finding out the secret and where we went wrong individually and as a community, come on back. Whew. I was hot, so I had to take off my hoodie. But let's go ahead and get into today's reading. Today's reading is coming from the book of Galatians. In the event you want to follow along, we're looking at Galatians Galatians chapter 2, verses 4 and 5. Here we go. And that because of false brethren unawares brought in, who came in privily to spy out our liberty which we have in Christ Jesus, that they might bring us into bondage. To whom we gave place by subjection, no, not for an hour, that the truth of the gospel might continue with you. Now, as early as kindergarten, we learn about Thanksgiving and how Thanksgiving went down. But we don't learn about what really happened to the Native Americans until long after, because that's something that they don't teach. They don't teach that what happened to the Native Americans after the Pilgrims landed was a tragedy, and that the condition of the Native Americans right now is just sad, like what goes on their plantations. We all know, because this is what we learned, that the Native Americans welcomed the Pilgrims with open arms, taught them their ways, and sent them on their merry way happily. And then once the Pilgrims realized how humble of a culture they were, they used it to their advantage and came back and got the land. But what do you think happened in Africa? See, Christianity and all of that jazz started on that side of town. And I get tickled because a lot of the times I read articles and a lot of people have the idea that the African slaves were taught Christianity. And to go even further than that, in Christianity today, there are a lot of themes that reflect exactly what a slave master would teach his slaves to ensure the slaves stay in their place instead of revolting. Like, a slave master would never explain the Bible for what it is to a slave. He's not going to tell the slave that this book is a book of liberation. They had to figure something else out. So they made it a book of love, which is conducive to them and their agenda, but not to ours. So the notion that the African slaves were taught Christianity, it doesn't make sense. Instead, I believe it was more like they were psychologically traumatized, and then Christianity was reintroduced to them in a whole new way, given to them with the understanding that they had it all wrong. And if they truly want salvation, this is going to be the way to look at it. See, back in ancient Egypt, that whole area, the biggest thing that you could do to show your allegiance to Christ was be hospitable. Make sure that people who come to your land, that people come to your house, that your neighbor is well taken care of and that you're responsible for them if they're under your roof. The biggest way to show that you're a Christian. So, yeah, anybody with bad intentions could easily come up in a situation like that. And by introducing the Bible and sharing the Bible, which is the backbone of their way of life, or which was the backbone of their way of life, and telling them, listen, this is what has fortified us. This is how here in Africa, we have over 24 different dialects. We're far more advanced than Europe is. This is how, is through these teachings right here. Take it with you and be well. That was their gift. And what happened was, when they got into it, they realized that if they pervert it, it can be done so to their advantage. So, understand that if you're black and you're reading the Bible as a book of love, there is literally no way for you to ever reach your full potential in a world like this. It's virtually impossible. What has to happen is every idea you have about the Bible has to be erased. And in order for blacks to individually and as a whole march into glory, we have to come back to the Bible and look at it as a book of liberation, which is what it is. Now, I learned this from a man named James Cone, the late James Cone. He coined a theology called Black theology. And it states that there can be no message about Christ unless it's directly related to the liberation of the oppressed. And reading the Bible under a scrutiny such as that is a game changer and has the power to change our circumstances almost instantaneously, especially if we all do it together, because they can't beat us despite what it looks like and despite what you've been made to believe. I am actually in the process of building a church, and I would love for you to subscribe to this channel, because this is where I'm gonna be posting. So this revolution, this holy revolution, is gonna be social medialized. So you're gonna wanna subscribe, and the biggest level of support would be to share this with your friends or anybody that you think might be interested. In the description box below, there'll be a link to a GoFundMe page, as a church is a nonprofit, and in order to stay afloat, they do have to accept donations, especially while I don't have like one member in my congregation. Just starting, but nothing's gonna stop me. Nothing's gonna stop me. What happened to Ahmaud Arbery has to stop, and we're gonna do that through Christ, because Christ is a language that everybody understands. I'm not even saying that we have to believe it. If you check out my church's statement of faith, you'll see we're just using the Bible as a guide. What we believe in is the universe. We believe in karma. We believe in things like that. But the Bible is a great depiction of the universe and what it entails. So we'll use that as our guide. Also, it has some really great stories in it. I ain't even gonna lie. So please subscribe, like, share, all of that good stuff. And I'll be back with some more information.